Welcome back. It turns out I haven't done a proper rant video in a long time. We've been focused too much on podcasts and productive things and other things, to the point where the battery in my camera was completely dead and I had to buy a new one, which is why we're going to do a proper rant today. Now, what got me started on this whole thing is a comment on one of the other recent videos from some optometrist. I'm guessing optometrist because it was filled with excuses for why optometry sucks as much as it does, and how we're pseudoscience, which is ironic since pseudoscience is actually optometry, and especially them claiming that myopia is some kind of mysterious genetic illness. Which brings me to this topic of right to repair. And if you're not familiar with it, hopefully you are. It's this idea that we as a consumer should have the right to repair the things that we own, that we buy, right? A big, famous, obvious example of this is Apple and their wonderful, wonderful, wonderful products. For example, I have an iPhone, something or other. I dropped it from pants height. It shattered into a million pieces. The back cover did. Apple wanted $500 to repair the back glass, which is nuts, right? So I took it to a third-party repair place. It was like $50, whatever. They fixed it, no big deal. Of course, it voids the warranty. Of course, it voids all the things. And Apple does all kinds of other fun things to mess with you on that level. The point of it all being is they don't just want to sell you the product. They want you to keep coming back and paying for it again and again. $500 for the back glass. If it wasn't for long unrelated stories, I just wouldn't buy Apple stuff. But nobody's any better, really. If you look on the internet, YouTube randomly recommends me these videos. Apparently farmers can't repair their own tractors because tractor companies are just like Apple and they lock their customer into going to the dealer to get anything fixed. The same is true for cars. The same is true for fancy high-end watches. Companies are pretty shady when it comes to forcing you to deal with them from now until forever. And not just deal with them, but deal for them with questionable practices and pricing. And this goes back to the right to repair eyesight. And the idea here being is your eyes are not broken. Short-sightedness is not a genetic illness of any kind. It is not. Whoever tells you this, probably sitting in a shop that sells glasses. That person with no ill intent maybe, but they're trained to sell glasses. They do not know what they're talking about in a lot of cases. If you look at endmyopia.org, a bazillion of the science, peer-reviewed clinical science that I quote is from optometry and ophthalmology journals. These are the science journals these guys are supposed to be reading. From beginning to end explain that myopia, short-sightedness, starts as pseudomyopia, which is a strain symptom, and later becomes lens-induced myopia caused by the symptom treatment, right? There's no, at this point, I've said this for so many freaking years, that it's the deadest of dead horses. The people who tell you that myopia is either a genetic condition or is unfixable, or you have to buy their treatment forever and ever, they're making money, and in a lot of cases, they do not know what they're talking about. Period. No question about it. And that's fine, right? Like, okay, incompetence or bias is part of how the world works. My problem happens with things like calling glasses prescriptions, right? A pair of glasses is two clear curved pieces of plastic. There's nothing inherently super dangerous or risky about it. It's very easy to measure myopia. Links on that below if you're not familiar. Diopters, the way your glasses express the amount of correction they cause, is a distance to blur, right? It's just measuring a distance till you see blurry. That's all it is. And then optometrists come and say, oh, but we check your eye health. We check your eye health. Put an ophthalmologist for that, right? An optometrist is not the best qualified resource to check your eye health. Isn't. Fact. Go to a proper ophthalmologist if you want an eye health checkup. Lenses, glasses, millions of dollars have been spent in the US on lobbying to make clear curved pieces of plastic something that only somebody with a specific piece of paper can sell to you. Think about that. It's a clear curved piece of plastic. it was completely fine to buy anywhere until the industry that makes these things lobbied the government to make laws to say you can only buy these things from us, right? Problem starts there. You can only buy these things from us. Well, why is that? It turns out that the wholesale cost of a pair of lenses in most cases is less than $2 or $3 US wholesale to the optometrist, who then charges you $50, $100, $200, $500. Wholesale costs of these things are negligible. The only way to maintain a serious markup is to contain the market, right? Is to force people to come to you to buy these things and to give themselves a title that makes it sound like you're a patient. Nothing drives me more nuts on this topic than when optometrists call you a customer, because that's all you are, is a subscription of lenses customer, calls you a patient. You're not sick. There's no illness. Myopia, short-sightedness is a refractive state. It's not an illness. It's not a weird medical condition. And in a lot of cases, optometrists aren't doctors, right? And if they were, it wouldn't matter, again, because refractive state. Now, further in the right to repair thing is you're being actively discouraged from asking questions. Go to any optometrist and ask them what's going on and see what you get. Go to any optometrist with a printout of journal documents that show that myopia starts out as pseudomyopia, which is a strange symptom, and ask them to explain that to you. Ask them to explain why eyeball axial change goes in both directions and see what kind of answers you get. Odds are, if you don't feel like doing this, is you're going to get answers that are unhelpful, arrogant, rude, dismissive, anything you want, as long as it's buying glasses. These are the things that frustrate me. The right to repair your eyesight. These people are actively standing in your way if you're asking questions, what's going on with my eyesight? And if you dare to go so far as to want to improve your eyesight, or you go to an optometrist and claim you have improved your eyesight, you're going to get even more pushback. These people do not want you to have better eyesight, right? This is the industry that's tasked officially with helping you with your eyesight. These are the people that you trust, that most people trust, to go to say, what's up with my eyes? They're actively discouraging you from repairing your eyesight. And to me, that is extremely frustrating. And to me, this is why Endmyopia exists. And this is in a big part what continues my drive for this, because of the attitude of the people that are saying they're here to help you and that are officially tasked with helping you, who are acting, not all of them. In the Facebook group, we have some extremely supportive optometrists. Lots of people have described encounters with very helpful optometrists. I don't mean to just throw shade at the entire profession, but at large, right? You go to 10 random optometrists, the attitude will be, you don't know what you're doing. I'm not going to explain this to you, especially when you're bringing clinical science evidence saying, hey, this thing started as a strange symptom and now it's worse because of this treatment that you're selling me every year, right? If you bring those peer-reviewed clinical science things to an optometrist, you're not going to get a positive reception, which is incredibly questionable. And which is, again, this idea of right to repair. If you're going to extend that to our biology, they're actively discouraging you from taking those steps. If you're going to go further, they're very actively discouraging you to discover me or to look at these ideas. And they're not doing this by and large by disputing the clinical evidence or by disputing that tens of thousands of people have either significantly reduced their myopia or fully reversed it. They're not doing this by doing their own trials and then disproving that it works by finding results that are countergoing this. They're largely doing this by ad hominem attacks on me. They're like, well, hey, look at this guy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Blah, 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 blah. Actively discouraging from people from trying alternatives. Now, I understand the internet, right? Like the internet is full of crazy things and you should be extremely careful. You should be skeptical of me and all other things. Of course, right? Like, I'd be the first one to say that because, for example, I had thyroid issues. It was a long journey figuring this out, and there's a lot of bad advice on the internet on how to deal with that stuff. I would heavily caution you to research things before taking any kind of action, and not just inside that bubble, right? Like, you don't just go to Endmyopia and go to our huge forum or to a large Facebook group or this ranty YouTube channel and then live in this bubble of where there's a lot of positive affirmation from a lot of people. You want to step outside that and look around, which people do. But then what I wish would happen in that outside space is some clinical evidence, right? That says, well, myopia is genetic, right? Or something that goes counter of what I'm saying factually or scientifically or by studies or by examples, which doesn't exist. It's every time I go outside, which I don't do much anymore, and look up people talking crap about us, it's never stuff where I'm like, okay, this warrants a debate, right? There's stuff like, this guy charges money. Yeah. I also do everything for free, but that's beside the point. It's arguments that look at the science that I quote, that says this is what causes myopia, this is how myopia gets worse, and then tell me how that's wrong. Because science is a debate, right? Like, science isn't, when I show scientific evidence, it doesn't mean this is a truth. That means this is part of a debate, right? Where pseudoscience and what optometry does is the opposite. It's shutting down debate. A lot of what the internet does is, there's all these, not all these, but there was a couple people who are like, shut this guy down, ban this guy, stop this guy from talking. That's the opposite of science, right? And going back to the whole right to repair concept, you should have, and you kind of don't have the right to repair your eyesight in a lot of places if you limit yourself to going to the optometrist to buying glasses, right? Like, it's a big gray area. And fortunately now, and this is, the genie's out of the bottle on this one, you can buy glasses online, right? And the amount of validation required to buy whatever your glasses you want is fairly limited. In some places non-existent, and there's plenty of places where you can buy whatever glasses you want. I'm looking at much of Asia. You go into an optic shop and you tell them what you want and they will sell it to you, right? This whole scam, and I'm just going to call this scam because millions of dollars of lobbying spent by the people making lenses to force you to go to a limited amount of outlets that charge you 5,000% markup to sell you these things, to me is a scam, right? They're limiting your options and they're limiting your access to knowledge, right? Like, they're not telling you about these studies. When your kid first goes to the optometrist and they say your kid needs glasses, they're not telling you about pseudomyopia. They're not asking how much time does your kid spend at this distance in front of smartphones. They're not suggesting for you to go outside with the kid for the weekend, do no close-up, and then do another eye exam. Nobody does, right? They're actively trying to get you to subscribe. They call these things prescriptions, which is some kind of funny joke. I call them subscriptions, right? Because you're becoming a subscriber to this lens package that you then need to have your own eyesight back. And I'm saying right to repair. Like, these things should come with a disclaimer. Lenses are likely to cause more myopia. This is a symptom treatment, right? This is not an actual fix for an issue. We are not giving you advice concerning what is causing this and how else you could address it. We, Optometry, are just selling you glasses, and we don't want you to know anything else. I find that very objectionable. And I'm glad that the internet is, well, it's getting fairly censored, but I'm glad that it's still a place where we can talk about these things. I'm glad that we have the ability to connect in this way that before we weren't, before Optometry owned this and they were making big money. If you haven't read it, I don't know if I'll remember to link it below. If you Google Lens Crafters LA Times, there's some fantastic articles exposing the immense profits that Lens Crafters, just as one example, makes off of the 5,000% markups on the glasses, and how shady it is. How much all those retail optometrists are being pushed to make sales, right? Like, seat time is counted, and how many minutes is a person in a seat, and how many prescriptions have you sold today. There's huge pressure on these people, and the last thing they want is for you to repair your own eyesight. I think that shouldn't be going on, and it's unfortunate that somehow I'm one of the main voices against this. I hope a lot more people will talk about this. I hope a lot more people will discover these resources and find a reason to fix their own eyesight. That's it. That's it for this long time due rant on things. Share, right? Like what you can do with all this stuff, and I don't know, maybe I'm not share worthy, but share what you learn. Just put the word out there, put the seed of doubt in people's mind, make them realize that the optic shop makes a huge amount of profit for selling you symptom treatment, and from there it's people's own choice, right? I wouldn't say bug people with you can fix your eyes. My whole thing, what I just tell people, hey, it's like those things you're wearing on your face, thousands of % markup, and it's a symptom treatment for a thing that's not a medical condition, right? And then let them do their own research, right? Because this is one of those things that there's no give me the steps answer. Do your own research. That's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I don't know how many videos I do lately. I'm doing a lot more podcasts. One of them is coming on today. I'm doing at least one a week these days, it seems like, talking progress reports. So I hope you enjoy those. See you in the next one.